And to talk more on the legacy of the late president, I'm joined by Aron, the author of a book on Boris Yeltsin. Now, Mr. Aron, the Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said that modern Russia should be grateful to the late president because he did not give up on democracy at a crucial time. But what is, in your opinion, what is Yeltsin's main achievement?
Well, I think that's exactly it. I think Yeltsin has allowed free and fair elections, including 2 referendums, 3 general elections, and the presidential election, which were considered both by the opposition and by the international observers completely free and fair. Nobody ever found any problem with that, and everybody was allowed, and including the opposition, to the counting of the votes. It's most impressive that even after the armed rebellion in Moscow in October of 1993, within 2 weeks, Yeltsin lifted all the censorship on the opposition media and also allowed everybody who participated in that, all the parties, with the exception of 5 radical parties that participated in the rebellion, to actually participate in the election to the newly established parliament.
All right, well, talking about freedom, how much freedom did Russians really get under Yeltsin?
Well, it was a very chaotic time, but frankly, and this is what I wrote in my book, I don't think Russia has ever been, with the exception of 9 months between February 1917 and November of 1917, Russia has never been as free as it was under Boris Yeltsin. And there are some specific instances of that freedom. It's a complete absence of censorship, of television, radio, and newspapers, and it is unimpeded access to the electoral process for the opposition in terms of the formation of the parties and in terms of the candidates running for elections.
All right, we're certainly at that time these were sweeping reforms, and they've been heavily criticized. Do you think that Boris Yeltsin could have made the transition period any smoother for Russians?
You know, it's a very tough question. I'm sure there were tactical mistakes made, and they've been written about. My problem is that it's very easy to judge how everything should have been done at the time where the country did not have a single commercial bank, where it did not have a viable currency, where there were no currency reserves, literally, and very little gold left for the first time in Russian history. So he started the reforms amidst a total collapse of the state-run Soviet economy. And these were incredibly difficult conditions, and I think under those conditions he's done, if not the best, then he probably has done as good as any human being could have done.
All right, well, another thing is that Boris Yeltsin took Russia-U.S. relations to a whole new level. I mean, even gaining close personal friendship with the then-President Bill Clinton. But some do say, as critics say, that he did allow Washington to interfere in Kremlin's affairs a little too much. What's your assessment on that?
You know, I've been always trying to figure out what exactly is meant by the interference in the Russian affairs, and I could never been able to establish it. Yes, Yeltsin had a very open, very friendly policy towards the United States, towards the West, and towards the former Soviet states. But that was not because anybody interfered in his decisions or pressured him. This was his strategy, to open up Russia after the 70 years of the Iron Curtain. And there was a coincidence of values, unprecedented coincidence of values between Russia and the West at that time. So the policy reflected that coincidence, including the Yeltsin's, for example, agreement with Ukraine, the recognition of Ukrainian independence, and various agreements that have been struck with the West. I think this was the policy ultimately that was in the interests of Russia, and I also don't believe that Yeltsin was under anybody's pressure, and if he had been under any pressure, that he would have followed that pressure and not done what he thought was in the best interest of his country.
All right, well, thank you very much for that insight. Very interesting indeed. That was Aron, the author of the book Yeltsin, A Revolutionary Life.